Hey, church family, we are sad that we cannot be with you in person today, but we are thankful for technology so that we can stay connected and informed.
Of life. We have a couple of quick announcements for you. Journey Youth will not be meeting tonight due to the weather. We want to make sure all of our teens stay safe. And then we have several signups going on right now, and many are closing today or later this week. So please take a few minutes while you're snowed in to register for these events. You can find all the links on our Facebook page or through registrations on jccdesoto.com. This Saturday, January 31st, is our first women's event of the year. We'll be having breakfast right here at church at 9 a.m. Please register today so that we make sure we have enough food for everyone. Journey Life Group registration is still active, but groups do begin the first week of February. So please get signed up if you have not already. If you have signed up, your group leader will be contacting you soon. Date night is coming up in just 2 weeks on February 7th. It's going to be a great night full of food, fun, and encouragement. But registration closes on January 30th. So we need you to register online, pay $50 per couple, and only one person from the couple needs to register. If you need childcare for this event, we're offering that for free as well. So please reach out to Andy Pirtle and she can get you signed up for that. Finally, if you had planned to worship through giving tithes or offerings today, you can visit our website and scroll down to the Give Online or follow the link in the post, and you can still give in that way.
The one thing that I want to remind everybody of is that next Sunday, February 1st, is our First Steps class. This is for anyone that is newer to Journey, that is yet to meet the elders, meet the lead team. This is a chance for us to come together. We'll have lunch together. You can ask questions. We'll share the vision and mission of Journey, but we want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. So please sign up. We have made the decision not to continue in our 1 Corinthians series until we are together in this room again. So what we've decided to do is go back to one of our favorite sermon series from 2025, which was our Minor Prophets series. And one of my favorite sermons from that series was the book of Habakkuk. And so we hope you enjoy. And so today we are in the book of Habakkuk. And quick survey, is it Habakkuk or Habakkuk? All right, well, where I'm from, it's Habakkuk. Or no, it's not, it's Habakkuk. Where I'm from, Fredericktown. See, I'm going to say it backwards now. And so you do you, however you want to pronounce it. We're going to throw a quick map on the screen just to kind of show you where Habakkuk's ministry was. It was between 612 and 589 BC, and you can see kind of his counterparts and where that all kind of fit together. This is week 8 of our Minor Prophet series, so 4 more weeks to go. And with each study, we are discovering that each prophet is unique in its own way. Some prophets were giving warning to Israel. Other prophets were giving warning to Judah, which is the southern part of Israel, right? Some were giving warning to the enemies of both Israel and Judah. Jonah, from 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was really different because it didn't really focus on any specific people group. It focused more on the heart of the prophet. And that's kind of in a similar way. That's what the book of Habakkuk is going to look like. Habakkuk is unique because he's not addressing Israel and he's not addressing Judah. In fact, he's not addressing anybody at all. Habakkuk's entire message is directed towards God. And it's raw and it's real. And Habakkuk raises 2, I think, major questions to God. Number 1, he says, God, why aren't you doing something? You ever been there? And then God's going to reveal his plan of what he's doing. And then the second question Habakkuk's going to ask is, God, why are you doing it wrong? That's what this whole story is about. And honestly, don't those 2 questions pretty much sum up every complaint that we've ever had about God? God, why aren't you fill in the blank, right? God, why are you doing it like that? God, why are you allowing that to happen? But here's what we're really going to discover today. Habakkuk is not just a book about complaints. It's a story of faith. Having faith in God doesn't mean we never question God. Having faith in God just means that we trust him through the questions. So here's a big question for you today. We're going to put it on the screen. Will you trust God when he doesn't do what you want him to do the way you want him to do it? We live in a broken world, and our faith in God is tested constantly. And at any given moment, I believe our faith can take on one of at least three possible postures. And we're going to see all three of those here in Habakkuk's journey. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 1 says this. This is the message that the prophet Habakkuk received in a vision. How long, O Lord, must I call for help? But you do not listen. Violence is everywhere. I cry, but you do not come to save. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence. I am surrounded by people who love to argue and fight. The law has become paralyzed, and there is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted. And so Habakkuk gets really heavy right out of the gate. He's looking around at his people, and all he sees is corruption and violence and injustice. The courts are corrupt. The wicked outnumber the righteous. And it seems like God is completely indifferent. And so the first posture we see of Habakkuk's faith is a posture of wrestling with God. Don't mistake his wrestling as faithlessness, because it's not. Real faith doesn't fake it. It wrestles honestly with God without walking away from God. Sometimes faith is less about the answers you get and more about the God you cling to even when your questions are going unanswered. God can handle your questions. God can handle your doubts. In fact, if you're here this morning and that's you, he welcomes you. Nowhere in all of this letter does God once chastise Habakkuk for his complaining and his questioning. And so the takeaway for me so far is this: God's justice always shows up, but it doesn't always show up on our timetable. Notice God's response in verse 5. The Lord replies, "Look around at the nations. Look and be amazed, for I am doing something in your own days, something you wouldn't believe even if someone told you about it. I am raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. Suddenly your debtors will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have while you stand trembling and helpless. Their horses are swifter than cheetahs and fiercer than the wolves at dusk. Their charioteers charge from far away. Like eagles, they swoop down to devour their prey. On they come, all bent on violence. Their horses advance like a desert wind, sweeping captives ahead of them like sand. They scoff at kings and princes and scorn all their fortresses. They simply pile ramps of earth against their walls and capture them. They sweep past like the wind and are gone, but they are deeply guilty, for their own strength is their God." So God responds to Habakkuk, but Habakkuk doesn't like the response. God responds with, "I am doing something. I'm raising up a new empire, the Babylonian Empire, which, by the way, is much stronger and much more wicked than the Assyrian Empire that we talked about last week." And God says that he's going to use Babylon to discipline his people for their disobedience and injustice. God is going to use the harshness of an evil empire to turn his people's hearts back to God. And that goes over with Habakkuk about as good as you think it would. He responds in verse 12. "O Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal, surely you do not plan to wipe us out. O Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins. But you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? Are we only fish to be caught and killed? Are we only sea creatures that have no leader? Must we be strung up on their hooks and caught in their nets while they rejoice and celebrate? Then they will worship their nets and burn incense in front of them. These nets are the gods who have made us rich, they will claim. Will you let them get away with this forever? Will they succeed forever in their heartless Conquest. Translation, Habakkuk says, do what? What is your plan, God? Because it sounds like a horrible idea. Habakkuk's second complaint is, God, your plan is worse than having no plan at all. You are going to punish your people for their wickedness by using people who are even more wicked than they are. That doesn't make any sense. And this is when faith is the hardest for us, isn't it? When God does do something, but he doesn't do it how we expected him or wanted him to do it. God's ways can often confuse us, but his ways never contradict his character. What seems harsh or unjust is not random. It's always redemptive. God is holy, but he's also sovereign. And he can and he will use the evil around us to bring us closer to him. I mean, imagine praying for God to heal your marriage, and instead your spouse leaves. Imagine praying for God to provide for your family, and he allows you to lose your job. Sometimes the answer to your prayers look like things getting worse before they get better. Here's my takeaway for that. God's justice always shows up, but it doesn't always show up the way we want it to. In Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1, he says this, I will climb up to my watchtower, and I will stand at my guard post. There I will wait to see what the Lord says and how he will answer my complaint. And so the second posture we see Habakkuk's faith take is a posture of waiting. And God responds a second time, verse 2. Then the Lord said to me, write my answer plainly on tablets so that a runner can carry the correct message to others. This vision is for a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. Look at the proud. They trust in themselves, and their lives are crooked. But the righteous will live by their faithfulness to God. And by the way, this is God describing the two roads, two choices that we keep referencing through the series that comes from Deuteronomy chapter 28, 29, and 30. He says, the proud trust their own ways, and their lives are crooked. But the righteous live by faith in God. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's quoted a few times in the New Testament. The righteous shall live by faith. Verse 5. Wealth is treacherous, and the arrogant are never at rest. They open their mouths as wide as the grave, and like death, they are never satisfied. In their greed, they have gathered up many nations and swallowed many peoples, but soon their captives will taunt them. They will mock them, saying, what sorrow awaits you thieves? Now you will get what you deserve. You become rich by extortion, but how much longer can this go on? Suddenly your debtors will take action. They will turn on you and take all you have while you stand trembling and helpless. Because you have plundered many nations, now all the survivors will plunder you. Look at verse 12. What sorrow awaits you who build cities with money gained through murder and corruption? Has not the Lord of heaven's armies promised that the wealth of nations will turn to ashes? They work so hard, but all in vain. Verse 15. What sorrow awaits you who make your neighbors drunk? You force your cup on them so you can gloat over their shameful nakedness. But soon it will be your turn to be disgraced. Come, drink and be exposed. Drink from the cup of the Lord's judgment, and all your glory will be turned to shame. Verse 18, what good is an idol carved by man or a cast image that deceives you? How foolish to trust in your own creation, a God that can't even talk. What sorrow awaits you who say to wooden idols, wake up and save us. To speechless stone images you say, rise up and teach us. Can an idol tell you what to do? They can be overlaid with gold and silver, but they are lifeless inside. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. And so in all of chapter 2 here, God is assuring Habakkuk that evil in this world will not go unpunished forever. That even though God may seem silent and uninvolved, he is at work behind the scenes. And God will deal with every injustice, and he will make right every wrong that has ever been done to you. God's justice always shows up. eventually. But for the church, our faith in God is most often refined in the posture of waiting for the eventually. In 2016, my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and we immediately started praying for God to heal her. But instead of answering our prayers for healing, God allowed her to get worse. And over the next year, we watched my mom die a slow, excruciating death. And we kept praying, but she kept getting worse. We prayed for God to heal her, and she eventually died. So I understand Habakkuk's complaint, because there are moments it sure feels like that God gets it wrong. A little over 2 years ago, Andy's dad passed away from cancer. Roger had given his life to serve in Jesus, had been all over this country singing and ministering for the kingdom. And he was fully convinced that God was going to heal him because there was still too much work to do. But God allowed Roger to battle with cancer for 7 years. And in the end, God allowed cancer to take his life. And you just can't help in those moments but to ask, God, where are you? Your word says we have not because we ask not, and we've been asking, we still have not. 1 year ago this week, Andy's mom fell and broke her hip. She went into surgery the next day to repair it, and she stopped breathing on the table, and they called us from the OR, and they said they're trying to get her back, and we immediately started praying. The entire family that was there just weeping and praying, and I had to get up. I just started walking the halls, and all I could pray over and over is, God, don't take her. God, I will do anything you want me to do. God, I will go anywhere you want me to go. Do not take her. And God still took her. And you just can't help but ask questions like, God, are you kidding me? God, are you ignoring us? And then in the midst of all of that, our sister-in-law is fighting for her life right now against cancer, and she's young, and she has 4 young daughters. And so I say all of that to say this: we feel like we have been in a constant posture of waiting and asking, waiting and questioning for over a decade. God, why don't you do something? God, why are you allowing this to happen? God, why don't you do what we think you should be doing? Because your way, it just doesn't make much sense. So, church, what should we do when God's way doesn't make sense? In other words, how do we learn to trust God's heart when we can't trace his hand at work in our lives? Well, that's the shift here in chapter 3. Nothing changes for Habakkuk in chapter 3 except his focus. Habakkuk stops focusing on what God is or isn't doing in the present, and he remembers what God has already done in the past. Look at chapter 3, verse 1. This prayer was sung by the prophet Habakkuk, which I think is interesting, because this subtle shift that we're going to see in chapter 3, this subtle shift of his focus, and somehow his heart goes from complaining against God to singing to God. Verse 2, I have heard all about you, Lord. I am filled with awe by your amazing works. In this time of our deep need, help us again as you did in years gone by. And in your anger, remember your mercy. And it's almost as if in Habakkuk's asking God to remember his mercy, that Habakkuk himself is reminded of God's mercy. Perhaps in all of my study this week, this is what brought me to worship King Jesus the most. The Spirit spoke to me there. And I wrote this down. I should have put it on the screen. I did not. It's It's harder for me to question God in my bad moments when I remember his mercy towards me in my sinful moments. Habakkuk prays for God to be as faithful now as he has proven himself to be to all of Israel in the past. Nothing has changed. The deep need, as he puts it, it's still there. But in verses 3 through 16, Habakkuk rehearses God's past faithfulness to his people. And I know it's hard to focus on the rearview mirror when the problem ahead of you is so consuming, so paralyzing. But by focusing on God's faithfulness in our past, our faith can find strength enough to trust God in the present. It's a subtle shift, but it has huge implications for our lives. This subtle shift for Habakkuk changed his faith posture in the waiting. Listen to his heart, starting in verse 17. Even though the fig trees have no blossoms, and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails, and the fields lie empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. And again, nothing has changed for Habakkuk. In fact, his even those here are brutal. No crops, no cattle, no provision. That's total economic collapse for him. But notice Habakkuk doesn't say, if God blesses me, then I will rejoice. No, he says, even if you don't bless me, I will rejoice. I will rejoice in you, O Lord, the God of my salvation. Maturing faith is not built in the blessings. It's forged in the famine. That's when we meet God and we are the most intimate with him. When we have nowhere else to look and nothing else to do but to lift our eyes and to lift our hands to the heavens. Learning to focus on what God has done rather than on what he hasn't done will help posture our faith in worshiping God, even in the waiting. You can be joyful in the God of your salvation, because if God can be trusted with your eternal soul, he can be trusted with temporary problems in your temporary life. Verse 19. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes me as sure-footed as a deer, able to tread upon the heights. So not only does Habakkuk stop focusing on just what God is or isn't doing, notice the shift of focusing now on just who God is. And that is how the book of Habakkuk ends. And we don't like it because there's still tension in this story, right? There is still tension because Habakkuk doesn't end with a solution. And come on, we are a people who want solutions. But it's better than that. Habakkuk ends with surrender. God, even if my prayers go unanswered, God, even if I never understand why, God, even though you didn't heal the people that I love most, yet I will trust you. Yet I will rejoice in you, because you are sovereign, because you are faithful, and you are merciful, and you are just. So even though I can't trace your hand, I'll trust your heart. And I will declare that God is good even when life is not. God, I'm choosing to worship you even in the waiting. So let me ask this to you this morning. Where is your heart? Is your heart full of faith, or is it full of frustration? Because wherever you are, it's okay. If you are in a season of wrestling with God and you're questioning him, it's okay. He can handle your questions. In fact, he welcomes us to come and to reason with him. So whether you can see God at work or not, whether you agree with God or not, he will meet you right where you are. But you have to be honest about where you are. You have to be honest with where you are today. In the waiting, are you wrestling with God and questioning him? Or are you surrendering to God and worshiping him?
We hope that sermon was a blessing to you, and it just helps you trust in God more and put your faith in him, no matter what you're going through in this season of life. We have a couple of quick announcements for you. Journey Youth will not be meeting tonight due to the weather. We want to make sure all of our teens stay safe. And then we have several signups going on right now, and many are closing today or later this week. So please take a few minutes while you're snowed in to register for these events. You can find all the links on our Facebook page or through registrations on jccdesoto.com. This Saturday, January 31st, is our first women's event of the year. We'll be having breakfast right here at church at 9 a.m. Please register today so that we make sure we have enough food for everyone. Next Sunday, February 1st, we're hosting a First Steps lunch. This is for people who are newer to Journey who want to learn more. You can meet our leadership team, ask questions about who we are and what we believe, and learn about how to get more involved with Journey. This registration also closes today. We only need one person from each family to go to the link and choose the number of people attending. Journey Life Group registration is still active, but groups do begin the first week of February. So please get signed up if you have not already. If you have signed up, your group leader will be contacting you soon. Date night is coming up in just 2 weeks on February 7th. It's going to be a great night full of food, fun, and encouragement. But registration closes on January 30th. So we need you to register online, pay $50 per couple, and only one person from the couple needs to register. If you need childcare for this event, we're offering that for free as well. So please reach out to Andy Pirtle and she can get you signed up for that. Finally, if you had planned to worship through giving tithes or offerings today, you can visit our website and scroll down to the Give Online or follow the link in the post and you can still give in that way. We hope you all stay warm and safe, and we are looking forward to seeing you again next week at Journey Community Church.